Have you ever thought that maybe faith is about more than just believing? That it's about actually shaping the world around you? Well, today we're diving into a text that makes that exact argument, that believers aren't just here to exist in the world, but to have dominion over it. Let's break down how it gets there. Okay, so to really get this whole idea of ruling, the text builds this really fascinating case, step by step. It all starts with something called a divine separation. From there, it explains how that separation equips you for overcoming the world. This leads to a brand new identity of royalty, which, you guessed it, comes with a mandate to rule. And then finally, we'll see the ultimate reason for all of it, shining as a light. All right, so the entire argument here really hinges on one single idea, this fundamental separation. The text basically says that, yeah, believers live in the world physically, but they are no longer spiritually a part of it, not a part of its systems, its values, or its way of doing things. And this quote right here, this is the bedrock for the text's entire argument. That key phrase, "I have chosen you out of the world," I mean, that's not a suggestion. It's framed as a declaration. It sets up this powerful idea that you've been handpicked, set apart for a completely different purpose. And this brings us to a really crucial distinction. See, being in the world, that's just your physical reality, right? It's your job, your neighborhood, all the systems you have to deal with every day. But being not of the world, well, that's about your core identity. The text argues that your spiritual allegiance has totally shifted, and that calls you to live by a different, divine standard, even when you're in the middle of worldly stuff. So, you see, this separation isn't just a fancy title. It's a call to action. The text is really clear that believers are supposed to operate by a completely different playbook. But what happens when that playbook runs up against the very real challenges of the world? Well, that brings us to the next big idea, overcoming. Okay, so if you're separate from the world, how in the world are you supposed to deal with its problems, right? The text answer here is actually pretty surprising. It doesn't frame it as a constant struggle, but as a guaranteed triumph. Now, first, we've got to be really clear about what the source means by the world. It's not talking about planet Earth, it's talking about the whole system. The culture, the power structures, all the negative influences, and just the general circumstances we all have to navigate in life. And here's the text answer to all those troubles. It fully acknowledges, yeah, challenges are a given. But then it immediately pivots to this massive declaration of victory. Be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. This is presented as the ultimate reality, one that's bigger than any temporary problem. And this right here, this is the crucial link. The text argues that this victory wasn't just some personal achievement for Jesus. No, it's presented as a victory won on your behalf, a status that gets directly transferred to every believer. In other words, you didn't just watch the victory, you share in it. So if a believer shares in this victory, what does that actually make them? This is where the devotional text shifts from the idea of overcoming to defining a very specific and very elevated new identity. The text uses some incredibly strong language here, pulling directly from Scripture to build this new identity. You get titles like a chosen race, a royal priesthood, and even heaven's best. And the point is, these aren't just supposed to be seen as nice compliments. They're presented as official titles that define a whole new class of person. The implication of this is just profound. According to the source, this isn't a metaphor for being a good person. It's framed as a literal spiritual transaction that has moved the believer into a completely different realm of existence, one where they operate as royalty with inherent authority. Okay, so you've got this royal identity. Now what? What are you supposed to do with it? Well, the text is very, very clear on this. This identity is not for show. It comes with a job description. It comes with a mandate to take action. This slide just perfectly shows the practical shift in behavior the text is calling for. The whole idea is to go from being a complainer to being a problem solver. Instead of just being part of the crowd demanding change, you're supposed to be the one creating change. It's a total shift from a passive mindset to what the source calls a kingdom mentality, thinking and acting like a representative of a divine government. And here it is, the core thesis of the entire source material stated plainly. It says, your calling is to actively rule and reign over the very systems and structures of the world that we talked about earlier. This is presented as the ultimate purpose of your unique identity and power. So how does a person actually rule like this? The text doesn't leave it all abstract and mysterious. It gives two very specific tools. your words, and your prayers. And what's crucial here is that they aren't framed as passive wishes, but as active instruments of authority, designed to literally create change. So we've established the royal identity and the mandate to rule, but that leaves one huge question. Why? What's the ultimate point of all this? In this final section, the text reveals the grand purpose behind this incredible calling. The source uses this famous scripture to explain the public side of this royal identity. Being a light of the world means this inner status was never meant to be a secret. It's designed to be visible, like a city on a hill that absolutely everyone can see. And this brings us right to the bottom line. According to the text, the entire reason for the separation, the royalty, and the mandate to rule is to be a living, breathing demonstration of God's character and excellence for the whole world to see. So, we've traced this incredible path from separation all the way to victory, from a royal identity to a mandate to rule. The text lays out a really powerful, really challenging framework, and it leaves us with one final provocative question to think about. What does it actually mean for you in your life to rule your world?